Westminster Abbey has long served as a cornerstone of the British monarchy, hosting coronations, weddings and burials. Stepping inside, visitors tread the same path as historic figures like Henry III and Queen Elizabeth I. Yet it's not solely a royal venue. Luminaries across disciplines from Charles Darwin to Charles Dickens find their resting places here. And there's even a corner for modern British scientific greats like Stephen Hawking. With its origins shrouded in legend, tradition traces Westminster Abbey's founding to King Cerbert of the East Saxons from around 616 AD, amid his people's conversion to Christianity. Legend credits Cerbert with establishing the original St. Paul's in London as well. Reflecting on this era, older churches are scarce due to Norse invasions and the preference of pagan worship. Cerbert, England's first Christian king, chose a site on the Isle of Thorney, several miles upstream from London, hence Westminster, denoting its western location from the city. According to legend, St. Peter himself appeared to consecrate the newly built church, forever lending his name to its dedication. The earliest true documented record linked to the construction of Westminster Abbey dates back to a charter establishing a monastery distinct from St. Paul's, granted by King Offa of Mercia around 757. Further mentions emerge from a 10th century charter by King Edgar the Peaceful of Wessex in 943, delineating the monastery's territories. Historian William of Malmesbury in 1095 to 1143 suggests a traditional founding date of 960, when Benedictine monks from Glastonbury expanded the existing monastery, solidifying Westminster as a significant Benedictine centre. This picture shows a stained glass window showing William installed in Malmesbury Abbey in 1928. Despite claims of an earlier foundation by King Cerbert, the exact location of the original structure remains obscured by centuries of construction. Among the influential figures in Westminster history, no one looms larger than King Edward the Confessor of the House of Wessex. Reigning from 1043 to 1065, Edward stands as the last recognized king of his line before the Norman conquest. While closely associated with Westminster, Edward's coronation occurred not at the Abbey, but at Winchester Cathedral, underscoring its prominence as a major ecclesiastical site. Despite this, Edward's pact with the Pope, promising to build a grand church dedicated to St. Peter if he regained power, marks a pivotal moment in Westminster's trajectory. This endeavour aligned with Edward's vision of establishing a grand royal compound, which led him to choose Westminster, strategically located outside of the city. Edward's ambition extended beyond a mere church. He envisioned a palace in the Romanesque style mirroring the grandeur of the Abbey. This palace, later known as the Palace of Westminster, evolved into the seat of English government, housing the royal court, the House of Lords and the House of Commons. This union of church and state cemented Westminster Abbey's status prominent and preeminent symbol of English monarchy, forever intertwined with the crown and defining its role as the Royal Church of England. Westminster Abbey features several examples of Romanesque architecture, particularly in its older sections. The most prominent area where you can see Romanesque elements is in the Abbey's oldest part, the Undercroft Museum. Here you can find remnants of the original 11th century Abbey built by Edward the Confessor. Romanesque architecture, prevalent in Europe from the 10th to the 12th centuries, particularly in the early abbey constructions, is characterized by several distinct features: thick walls, round arches, vaulted ceilings, heavy piers and columns, small windows. Simplicity of decoration. Compared to the elaborate decoration of later Gothic architecture, Romanesque buildings tend to feature simple ornamentation. Decorative elements such as sculptural reliefs, frescoes, and painted decoration are often geometric or stylized in nature. Plus, many Romanesque abbey buildings, especially those built during times of political instability, have a fortified appearance with crenellated walls, towers, and defensive features. Exploring these areas of Westminster Abbey will provide you with a glimpse into the Romanesque architectural heritage of the historic site. The Abbey Church. While much of the main body of Westminster Abbey was rebuilt in the Gothic style during the 13th century, some Romanesque elements may still be visible in the foundations or lower levels of the structure. The cloisters, too, of Westminster Abbey are predominantly Gothic. Some of the older parts may exhibit Romanesque elements, especially in the lower levels and structure of the arches. King Edward famously met his demise during the defeat by William the Conqueror's invaders. William's subsequent coronation at Westminster initiated a tradition followed by English and British monarchs thereafter. Over the next 2 centuries, Westminster underwent significant changes. Construction commenced in 1110, extending until 1163. In the 13th century, plans for further expansion emerged. The small eastern chapel was replaced with the larger Lady Chapel dedicated to the Virgin, consecrated in 1220. This period saw deceased kings revered as saints, with Westminster housing Edward's relics, drawing pilgrims from far and wide. Despite initial doubts, Norman monarchs embraced Edward the Confessor's legacy. The nave's expansion symbolized this, as Edward's body was moved to a prominent location near the high altar, overshadowing St. Peter as the primary patron. In the 13th century, a grand reconstruction plan unfolded due to earlier expansions proving inadequate. Beginning in 1245, under Abbots Richard Crossley and Richard Ware, with King Henry III's patronage, the eastern portion, including half the nave, was demolished and rebuilt over 30 years. However, disasters such as fire and the Black Death halted construction in 1349 for nearly a century. Completion of the nave awaited support from a new patron, Henry VIII. In 1517, Henry VIII also financed the reconstruction of the Lady Chapel, now known as Henry VII's Lady Chapel. The continuous influx of pilgrims and support from royalty provided substantial financial resources and sway to the abbey. This considerable influence stirred envy, distrust, and resentment, ultimately paving the way for the next chapter in the abbey's narrative, the dissolution of the monasteries. Following Henry VIII's victory in the War of the Roses, 1455 to 1487, the monarchy emerged with enhanced authority, establishing a centralized state where the king wielded significant power. Consequently, the church became accountable to the monarch rather than the pope. Since 1539, Westminster Abbey has been under the jurisdiction of the Church of England, also known as the Anglican or Episcopal Church. This denomination holds a distinctive position in Christianity, serving as a bridge between the Protestant and Catholic realms. Anglicans are considered Protestant due to their rejection of papal authority, yet they maintain Catholic elements by recognizing their priests as spiritually descended from the 12 apostles and observing the practice of Mass. The emergence of the new church marked a departure from the traditional Romanesque style of architecture. Known for its short columns, dim interiors, and faithful emulation of ancient Roman designs. The innovative Gothic style, named after the Goths of France who pioneered it, revolutionized architecture. Initially developed in French cathedrals, Gothic architecture swiftly gained international acclaim. Gothic design introduced pointed arches in lieu of rounded ones, along with flying buttress external supports, redistributing the stresses of the building's weight. This structural innovation allowed for slimmer, spaced-out supports, creating unprecedented expanses of wall space for windows. Consequently, the era witnessed the advent of stained glass artistry, transforming churches into resplendent temples of light. Stained glass windows were revered not only as conduits to the divine, but also as narrative tools, illuminating the teachings of the Church for the masses, many of whom were illiterate. The modernization of the Abbey culminated in the construction of two imposing towers above the Great Door in 1722. Despite retaining a similar appearance since then, the outward semblance belies significant shifts in the Abbey's usage during this period. Simultaneously, there was a notable surge in commoners being interred at the Abbey as a mark of national service, coinciding with the cessation of royal burials in 760. Noteworthy figures such as Sir Isaac Newton, alongside royalty, found their final resting places within its walls. Westminster Abbey isn't merely a static monument, but primarily a functioning church. Amidst its daily ceremonies, visitors are kindly requested to observe reverence and avoid unnecessary disturbances. However, guests are warmly encouraged to partake in these ceremonies regardless of their religious affiliation. To appreciate the majestic music of pipe organs, the ethereal voices of boys' choirs, and the timeless rituals of mass and song is a wonderful thing to behold. These ceremonies have unfolded here daily for centuries, making Westminster Abbey one of the oldest centres of Christian worship in the British Isles. A visit to Westminster Abbey is a profound experience, as each step resonates with the echoes of history, encapsulating the resting place of countless eminent figures from British history. Most recently, Queen Elizabeth II was laid to rest within its sacred precincts. Her association with Westminster Abbey was deeply woven into the fabric of her life and reign, from witnessing her father's coronation as an 11-year-old to exchanging vows and being crowned here. Her Majesty's connection endured through regular attendance at national and international events, as well as family ceremonies reflecting the profound significance of this venerable institution in her life. I leave you with 15 notable names who are buried at Westminster Abbey. Geoffrey Chaucer, 1343 to 1400, the English poet widely regarded as the greatest poet of the Middle Ages. Charles Darwin, 1809 to 1882, the English naturalist and biologist best known for his theory of evolution by natural selection. Isaac Newton, 1642 to 1727, the English mathematician, physicist and astronomer, famous for his laws of motion and universal gravitation. Sir Christopher Wren, 1632 to 1723, an English architect best known for rebuilding many churches in London after the Great Fire of 1666. Sir Laurence Olivier, 1907 to 1989, English actor and director regarded as one of the greatest actors of the 20th century. Sir Edward Elgar, 1857 to 1934, an English composer known for works such as Enigma Variations and Pomp and Circumstance Marches. Sir Alexander Fleming, 1881 to 1955, Scottish biologist and pharmacologist, best known for discovering penicillin. Charles James Fox, 1749 to 1806, British Whig statesman and advocate of liberal politics. William Pitt the Younger, 1759 to 1806, British statesman who served as Prime Minister of Great Britain. Sir Francis Bacon, 1561 to 1626, an English philosopher, statesman, scientist, and author known for his works on empirical science. Sir Henry Campbell Bannerman, 1836 to 1908, British statesman who served as Prime Minister. Geoffrey Fisher, 1887 to 1972, Archbishop of Canterbury from 1945 to 1961. The ashes of Stephen Hawking were buried in Scientists' Corner of Westminster Abbey that honours some of Britain's greatest scientists, between the graves of Charles Darwin and Isaac Newton. More than 1,000 people attended a service of thanksgiving in the ancient abbey for the physicist who died in March at age 76, Stephen Hawking.